So Ghostbusters, this is a 40 plus year franchise that is still kicking. It's still going. I actually think that this year is the 40th anniversary of the
Wow.
first Ghostbusters that came out in 1984. There's been tons of spin-offs, animated shows, comic book toys, merchandise, and now, of
Video
course,
games.
4
Mhm.
sequels that they have made. This movie is following up Ghostbusters Afterlife, a movie that we did indeed review and talk about on this podcast. That was sort of the return to the proper Ghostbusters timeline. They had the all female reboot that came out in 2016, but the one that came out a couple of years ago, Ghostbusters Afterlife, was a direct sequel to Ghostbusters 2, and it brought back a lot of the legacy characters like Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson, while also establishing this new generation. And due to the success of that film, I think a film that we mostly found enjoyable, they
Mhm.
decided to go ahead and make another iteration of this franchise, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And so we got a chance to go check this out this past weekend. So with all of that out the way, man, I will pass it over to you. What did you think about this new entry, Frozen Empire?
This movie is not as enjoyable as its predecessor. I The thing is about this movie, I didn't hate watching it, but so much in it that I did not like. And I was actually pretty excited coming into this Ghostbusters Frozen Empire because I like what they did with Ghostbusters was it Afterlife 2021. I like that movie. It's fine. I think I like how they introduced some new characters. You can see where we were going with Phoebe, the character. We're like, okay, we have some new things. Of course, you got to do the we brought back a franchise, so let's bring back all the original players. Of course, they went through that. And it was a fine movie. I was like, okay, coming into this movie, it's too much going on, bro. That for me, it's just too much going on. This movie has 25 characters, and that's probably hyperbole, but the more I think about it, maybe it's not. Like there's so many characters in this movie. And what's funny is, of course, they bring back the original cast. We know that. They bring back the original cast, and then they do nothing with them. I'm sorry if that's a spoiler. I don't even know if that's considered. They don't touch them at all. And I would have rather them just have left those people out or do something with them if you're going to include them. And they did neither. And that was very frustrating to watch. There's like 20 subplots to this movie as well. There's just so much that they felt like they had to do. And the reason I feel like this movie falls short for me is because in watching it, I didn't feel like I was watching a Ghostbusters movie. I feel like I watched a movie that was inspired by Ghostbusters that's now trying to become a franchise. And I don't like that because that's not what made Ghostbusters fun. Is, oh, we're trying to become this franchise. It's just because they had fun making those films. The first two Ghostbusters are fun movies. Shoot, to be honest, Ghostbusters 2016 with the main female cast, at least they understood that Ghostbusters was supposed to be funny. You know what I mean? I don't hate that movie either. At least they understood that it was supposed to be funny. Here, it didn't feel like that. Here, for me, it felt like they were trying to propel themselves into superhero land, even though it's not that big of a scale, but it does feel like that by the end of it. Dude, the stakes are ridiculous. The stakes are through the roof, but none of the characters feel like, or nothing else that transpired feel like we were stepping up to that. And so, yeah, this movie, again, I know I said a lot there, but this movie is like, again, it's not hard to watch, but I didn't like a lot of the things that was happening. There's too much going on. There's too many subplots. There's too many characters, and that's pretty much the movie for me. I laughed a couple times. I actually don't hate the storyline that they try to do with Phoebe as the main character, but all of that is lost in so much noise and so many callbacks and so much let's do this, let's do that, that I think they really miss the essence of the fun of Ghostbusters. And yeah, that's unfortunate. You don't hear the song that much. You don't shoot. I wish they included Bobby Brown. Maybe Bobby Brown could have made a song because Ghostbusters 2, that Bobby Brown was jamming. But yeah, man, it's just a lot of it just fell flat for me. And by the end, it's just like this is not the Ghostbusters I remember. Not on some, oh, I am gatekeeping Ghostbusters. That's why this is bad because they're making new Ghostbusters movies. No, it's because you still got to like make a decent movie that still has the spirit of Ghostbusters. And I feel like they kind of missed the spirit a little bit trying to make this movie are trying to make this into a franchise and not just trying to make a good Ghostbusters movie. And so yeah, I left disappointed. I did.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, it's pretty bad. I think that this is just a complete misfire for the most part. It's my least favorite Ghostbusters movie at this point, which is a little shocking. I would not have predicted that coming into this. The 2016 version is fine. It's okay. It's watchable, but I don't necessarily enjoy watching it. I thought that would always just
Hmm.
kind of be this outlier because it is in its own separate universe, but this one just comes in and it's a complete snooze fest. It's boring. I didn't enjoy it. I think that the villain is a nothing villain in this movie. There are way too many characters. It's overlong. The CGI isn't that great at several points in time. For some reason, they decide to freeze over all of New York City and just raise the stakes on a completely ridiculous cosmic level, further than we've ever taken it anywhere before. Like, yes, the first one has Gozer, the Gozerian, and you have a huge Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walking around New York City, but
Camp.
that was unique and epic, and that felt right and appropriate for that moment, and it was
Hmm.
born out of a really brilliant concept of thinking of something innocent turning into all of a sudden this monstrous figure, and now we're just at the point where we're dealing with a knockoff version of the Slender Man coming to freeze New York City and freeze the world. Like I just didn't understand why we were here. And I think the biggest misstep with this movie though is that it doesn't have any heart, really. It doesn't have any of
Hmm.
those emotions. Like what I really did enjoy about Ghostbusters Afterlife is how much they connected the two generations, the previous generation, while also establishing this new era. And that's the best work that any legacy sequel can do. It can bridge that gap. And they did so much with Egon and the legacy that he left behind and how much that affected his family. And there was this tension. And you had the original Ghostbusters, who were off, sort of living their own lives. Like Winston was, this all of a sudden super wealthy, investment banker, and Bankman was out of commission nowhere. Ray Stantz still had his shop. Like they just did such a good job at just bridging that gap, bringing these two worlds together, so that by the time they showed up at the end of Afterlife, it was like, oh yeah, I'm glad I waited for that. I'm glad that we can just kind of sit back and really tie that bow up nicely. Now, obviously, them being here, they're going to be a little bit more of a factor, but they just assemble the Ghostbusters Avengers. Every person available can be a Ghostbusters. Everybody gets a uniform. Everybody gets the proton pack. Everybody's ready to fight. And I just didn't enjoy that because what it does, it places too much focus on too many people, and by
Hmm.
doing so, you don't service anybody all that well. I will push back on what you said about original cast members. I do feel like they had a lot to do for Ray in particular, but
Ray, but
Ray had a
everybody
lot.
else,
Everybody else though, like Bill Murray, two
Bill just kind
scenes.
of showed up,
He
bro. He
just
showed up.
shows up.
He just showed up, dog.
Ernie Hudson, he had a couple of
A
scenes,
little bit to do. Yeah, a
a
little bit to
little
do.
bit, but yeah, Ray is kind of the one that had a lot to do. Dan Aykroyd had more to do here,
Hmm.
but
That's true.
even then, it's just not enough. It's not enough to pick this movie up and save it and make it that enjoyable. Overall, I just felt that it was lackluster, and to be honest, I don't need them to make any more. I don't need that. Of course, they will eventually. Of course, that's going to be a thing. Like, it's not going to rest. That's not how capitalism works. They will revisit Ghostbusters at some point, but we probably need to let this rest for a bit. And what I will say to that though is that I would like to see more of McKenna Grace in this role and in this
Yes,
universe because she's really good.
agreed.
I love
Absolutely.
how they've passed the torch to her. She can clearly carry this. She's such a talented young actress. I just love the stuff that they set up there for her, but there's just so much extra shit here that kind of distracts you from it. Like Kumail Nanjiani's character, like I didn't need that. Patton Oswalt pops up for a quick why, like what are you doing here?
Hmm.
It's just certain stuff that just felt unnecessary, and so I think that they kind of need to let this cool off for a while before returning to the franchise. But we will certainly have to see. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. If you've checked out this movie, hit us up and let us know what you think.